Well, European Union interior ministers are meeting in Luxembourg today to discuss how to deal with migrants arriving across the Mediterranean Sea. Countries including Germany, France, Italy and Malta have already agreed to accept a share of migrants rescued at sea. Now they want other EU states to join in a new voluntary resettlement scheme. According to EU law, asylum seekers must register and stay in the country where they first land, and that has put enormous pressure on Mediterranean states. So far this year, Spain has received more than 20,000 migrants, Italy almost 8,000, and Greece over 40,000. Migrant arrivals are down by 30% this year, but when boats do arrive, Europe often struggles to respond. It's hoped that today's meeting will deliver a solution.
It was a moment that changed the debate around migration to Europe. 31-year-old Carola Rackete forced her rescue ship carrying 40 migrants into the harbor of Italy's Lampedusa island. She was arrested for defying Italy's ban on private rescue ships entering its ports. As it stands, when an aid organization rescues migrants in the central Mediterranean, EU countries are forced to scramble to allocate the arrivals among themselves. Both Italy and Malta, which lie close to the North African coast, say it's unfair that they have to accept so many of those who come to Europe's shores. At the end of September, interior ministers from Italy, Germany and France met in Malta to discuss a way forward. They agreed on a mechanism to automatically distribute the migrants who arrive by boat.
The people who come to shore must be distributed. They can do a security check at the point of arrival through interviews, but they can't process all their asylum claims in such a short time. Not if we want to comply with the law. That must be done in other EU countries as well, like Germany.
Now, Germany, France, Italy and Malta are hoping to convince other EU member states to sign up to the migrant resettlement scheme.
DW's Max Hoffman is in Luxembourg covering that meeting for us. Max, the ministers are seeking agreement on how to deal with migrants crossing the Mediterranean. Tell us more about what's on the table.
It is that Maltese relocation mechanism, which is automatic, which changes things because before that it was not automatic and they had to haggle over every ship. Now, the problem with this mechanism is that so far only 4 countries have agreed to participate in it: Germany, Italy, France, and Malta. And if you do the math, that gives Germany a pretty large share of those refugees. So far, about a quarter of those that are rescued at sea. So 25%. It sounds like a lot, and Horst Seehofer, the German interior minister, got a lot of criticism because of that in Germany, but if you look at the actual numbers, it's not that much. The interior ministry is operating with 225 refugees taken up by Germany so far. So it's no wonder that Horst Seehofer, upon arrival here in Luxembourg, said that this discussion in Germany was shameful given the very small numbers.
Now, the EU member states have been deeply divided on migration policy over the years. What are the chances that the ministers will actually reach a consensus on what's being proposed today?
You know, you have to remember, it's very limited in scope what they're talking about. This relocation mechanism, it's only for the central Mediterranean route, and it's only for those that are rescued at sea. So you would think that it wouldn't be that hard to convince other countries to participate in that, and that's exactly what Horst Seehofer, so the German interior minister, is going to try to do here today in Luxembourg. But it doesn't look good. He didn't sound too optimistic when he came here. He managed expectations. We know that some countries are ready to help, for example, Portugal or the Baltic states, just not right now. So we don't expect any concrete agreement here today.
Tell us, Max, why is just the central Mediterranean the focus of EU efforts to deal with migration right now when there's far more pressure in the eastern Mediterranean?
Because it was the one that caused the most headache in the past months, really, because as I mentioned in my first answer, every ship that arrived. They needed to negotiate where it could go, because with the old Italian government, they just wouldn't let those ships disembark in Italy, and Malta didn't either. So there was a lot of phone calls over the weekends, and they were just kind of fed up with that and said, for that little number, for that reduced number of refugees we are talking about, we can have an automatic mechanism. But you're absolutely right. The Eastern European states like Greece or Bulgaria or also Cyprus are dealing with much larger number of refugees, and that's why the ministers of those countries today here are complaining that they're not in the focus of attention. And by the way, it looks like that's going to change with migration numbers ramping up in that area.
Max, thank you very much for filling us in. DW's Max Hoffman there in Luxembourg.